Mesopotamia, often called the Cradle of Civilization, was the birthplace of some of humanity's most significant advancements. Situated between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in present-day Iraq, as well as parts of Syria, Turkey, and Iran, this region saw the early development of writing, agriculture, governance, and monumental architecture. The geographical and climatic conditions of Mesopotamia played a crucial role in shaping its civilization, which eventually gave rise to powerful city-states and empires. The term Mesopotamia is derived from the ancient Greek words meaning land between the rivers. This fertile region, enriched by the seasonal flooding of the Tigris and Euphrates, became an ideal location for the Neolithic Revolution, which began around 12,000 years ago. This transition marked the shift from a hunter-gatherer lifestyle to settled agricultural societies. The abundance of water and fertile land allowed early humans to cultivate crops and domesticate animals, leading to the establishment of permanent settlements. Over time, these small farming communities grew into urban centers, laying the foundation for what would become some of the world's earliest cities. Mesopotamia, in its narrowest definition, refers to the land between the Euphrates and Tigris rivers, north or northwest of Baghdad's bottleneck, within modern Iraq. This region, known to the Arabs as Al Jazeera, the island, is distinct from Babylonia, which lies further south and takes its name from the ancient city of Babylon. However, in a broader sense, Mesopotamia extends from the northeast, where it meets the Zagros Mountains, to the southwest, along the Arabian Plateau. It stretches from the Persian Gulf in the southeast to the foothills of the Anti-Taurus Mountains in the northwest. The Euphrates and Tigris, often called the Raphidan, twin rivers, by the Arabs, have shifted their courses over time, becoming parallel only from Baghdad's latitude onward. Though the Karen River's lowland plains in Persia share strong geographical and historical ties with Mesopotamia, they form a separate river system and are not considered part of it. South of Al-Ramadi on the Euphrates and the Tigris Bend near Smar, Mesopotamia is an expanse of alluvial plain. The elevation difference between Baghdad and the Shah al-Arab, the point where the Tigris and Euphrates merge and empty into the Persian Gulf, is merely 100 feet, 30 meters. Due to the river's slow flow, silt accumulates, raising riverbeds and increasing the risk of flooding unless controlled by high dikes. In the past, seasonal flooding often altered the river's courses, though modern escape channels and reservoirs above Baghdad now regulate water levels. The southernmost region consists of vast marshes and reed swamps, known as hors. These wetlands have long served as refuges for displaced and oppressed peoples. The area's water supply is irregular, with minimal rainfall and high temperatures making the soil too dry for agriculture for much of the year. Cultivation in Mesopotamia became viable only after artificial irrigation systems were developed, enabling water distribution through an extensive network of canals. With irrigation and proper drainage, the region's soil proved highly fertile, turning southern Mesopotamia into a thriving agricultural hub capable of sustaining large populations. Initially, northern Mesopotamia held cultural prominence, possibly until around 4000 BCE. However, as the people of the south adapted to their environment and harnessed irrigation technology, they surpassed the north in development. Today, the climate remains much as it was 8,000 years ago. A study conducted around ancient Hatra, approximately 180 miles northwest of Baghdad, revealed that the boundary for rain-fed agriculture has remained unchanged since the earliest settlements in Al Jazeera. The climate of Mesopotamia played a crucial role in shaping the region's urban development and societal organization. Around 6,000 to 7,000 years ago, Mesopotamia had a wetter and more temperate climate, which made agriculture easier. During this period, abundant water from the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, combined with seasonal rainfall, allowed early settlers to grow crops with minimal irrigation. The fertile land, combined with an increasing population, led to the establishment of small villages and towns. However, as time progressed, climate conditions began to shift. By around 4000 BC, the region became progressively drier, making water management and irrigation essential for survival. The rivers became less predictable, with periods of drought and sudden flooding, forcing inhabitants to develop sophisticated irrigation systems to sustain agriculture. As managing water resources became increasingly complex, societies required more organized governance structures to regulate irrigation, distribute water fairly, and ensure food security. This process ultimately contributed to the rise of centralized authorities, bureaucratic institutions, and city-states, leading to the emergence of one of the world's earliest civilizations. The availability of raw materials played a crucial role in Mesopotamian history, as did the reliance on imported resources. The region had an abundance of agricultural products, including grains, vegetables, and livestock such as cattle and sheep. Fisheries thrived, and industries based on date palm cultivation and reed processing were well established. As a result, Mesopotamia produced surplus goods, meat, leather, wool, horn, fish, dates, and plant fiber products, which could be traded or exported. Additionally, bitumen, a valuable resource, was found in natural springs at Hit, about 90 miles northwest of Baghdad along the Euphrates, known as to Herodotus. However, certain essential materials were scarce or completely absent. High-quality wood for construction was unavailable, as the date palm, considered Iraq's national tree, provided only rough beams unsuitable for fine craftsmanship. Southern Mesopotamia also lacked significant stone deposits. Some limestone was quarried about 35 miles west in the desert, and Mosul marble was available in the middle reaches of the Tigris, but these sources were limited. Metals and precious stones could only be found in the surrounding mountains, making access difficult. Due to these natural limitations, trade became an integral part of Mesopotamian civilization. Southern Mesopotamia, in particular, depended on exchanging its surplus goods for essential materials from distant regions. Occasionally, powerful empires managed to secure resources through conquest or subjugation, but more often, trade networks were the primary means of acquiring necessary imports. From the very beginning, Mesopotamia's economy and survival were closely tied to commerce and resource exchange. Mesopotamia was geographically divided into Lower Mesopotamia, southern Iraq, and Upper Mesopotamia, northern Iraq and western Syria, and each region followed a distinct path toward urbanization due to differences in climate, geography, and available resources. Lower Mesopotamia, where the famous Sumerian civilization emerged, was a flat and low-lying region with fewer natural resources but had fertile soil and extensive marshlands. This region included some of the earliest and most influential cities in history, such as Uruk, Eridu, and Sippar. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers regularly flooded the surrounding land, creating a fertile environment for agriculture. However, because rainfall was minimal, Sumerians depended heavily on irrigation systems to cultivate crops. Early settlers dug canals, ditches, and reservoirs to channel water to their fields, allowing them to grow barley, wheat, legumes, and date palms. Additionally, the marshlands provided abundant natural resources, including reeds, used for constructing houses, boats, and baskets; fish and waterfowl, important sources of food; clay and mud, essential for making bricks, which were used to build homes, temples, and city walls. Due to its location near the Persian Gulf, Lower Mesopotamia had access to long-distance trade routes. Sumerians engaged in maritime trade with regions such as the Indus Valley, Anatolia, and the Arabian Peninsula, exchanging surplus grain, wool, and pottery for metals, timber, and precious stones. The need to manage irrigation, trade, and surplus food led to the growth of large cities with organized governance. Temples and religious institutions, ziggurats, played a significant role in the early administration of these cities, overseeing agricultural production, storage of surplus crops, and distribution of goods. Eventually, powerful kings and dynastic rulers emerged, consolidating power and leading to the formation of the first city-states. Upper Mesopotamia, covering northern Iraq and western Syria, had a more elevated and varied landscape, including rolling hills, forests, and access to mountains. Unlike Lower Mesopotamia, this region received more reliable rainfall, which meant that farmers did not have to rely as much on irrigation systems. This difference in climate led to a distinct path of urbanization. With regular seasonal rainfall, Upper Mesopotamians could cultivate crops without large-scale irrigation projects. Farmers grew barley, wheat, and lentils, while also raising sheep, goats, and cattle for food and trade. The presence of mountains and forests provided timber, stone, and metal ores, which were scarce in the south. These resources enabled the construction of stone temples, fortifications, and advanced tools and weapons, setting Upper Mesopotamian societies apart from their Sumerian counterparts, who relied more on mud brick structures. Upper Mesopotamia had land-based trade routes connecting it to Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, and the Levant, modern-day Syria and Lebanon. This allowed cities in the north to obtain obsidian, copper, and textiles from distant regions. Trade contributed to the cultural exchange between Mesopotamians and neighboring civilizations, influencing architecture, pottery, and metallurgy. One of the most notable early cities in Upper Mesopotamia was Tepe-Gora, an important settlement that displayed advanced urban planning and architectural sophistication. Excavations at Tepe-Gora have revealed brick temples with intricate designs, storage facilities, and evidence of social stratification, suggesting that the city had a well-established governing system. Unlike the centralized and highly organized city-states of Sumer, urban societies in Upper Mesopotamia developed in a more decentralized manner, relying on local village networks and smaller administrative centers. Over time, the climatic differences between Lower and Upper Mesopotamia influenced the trajectory of civilization in both regions. Lower Mesopotamia's dependence on irrigation led to the rise of powerful city-states and centralized governance. However, it also resulted in soil salinization and land degradation, which eventually weakened agricultural productivity and contributed to the decline of Sumerian city-states. Upper Mesopotamia's reliance on rainfall allowed for longer-lasting settlements with a more sustainable agricultural system. However, its decentralized urban structure made it more vulnerable to invasions and conflicts from external groups. Despite these differences, both regions contributed to the formation of Mesopotamian civilization, influencing later empires such as Akkad, Babylon, and Assyria. Climate played a decisive role in the urbanization of Mesopotamia, shaping the way societies developed and interacted with their environment. The early wetter climate allowed settlements to flourish, but as the region became drier, irrigation became essential for survival. In Lower Mesopotamia, the need for large-scale water management systems led to the formation of city-states, complex bureaucracies, and organized trade networks. Meanwhile, Upper Mesopotamia's reliance on natural rainfall and access to valuable resources resulted in a different but equally significant path toward urbanization. Despite their contrasts, both regions contributed to the broader Mesopotamian legacy, influencing the development of future civilizations across the ancient world. The Sumerians, the earliest known inhabitants of Lower Mesopotamia, were responsible for some of history's most significant innovations. Living in the fertile plains between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, they developed one of the first great civilizations, laying the foundation for urban life, organized governance, and technological progress. Despite facing harsh environmental conditions such as unpredictable flooding and soil salinization, the Sumerians adapted by creating advanced irrigation systems, administrative institutions, and artistic achievements. Their innovations had a profound impact on later cultures, influencing civilizations across the ancient world. One of the most groundbreaking contributions of the Sumerians was the development of cuneiform, one of the earliest known writing systems. Before cuneiform, societies relied on oral tradition and simple pictographs to record important information. However, as Sumerian cities grew and economic activities expanded, the need for a more sophisticated system of record-keeping became essential. Around 3100 BC, the Sumerians began using pictographic symbols to represent goods, such as grain, cattle, and textiles, on clay tablets. Over time, these pictographs evolved into wedge-shaped symbols, which were pressed into clay using a stylus made of reed, thus creating cuneiform, meaning wedge-shaped in Latin. This writing system allowed for detailed records of trade, taxation, and government administration, economic transactions, legal codes, ur-namu, literature and mythology, religious texts. As Sumerian city-states grew, they required organized governance to manage agriculture, trade, and religious affairs. Initially, temples were the centers of political and economic activity, but as societies became more complex, power gradually shifted to kings. In the earliest stages, priests and temple officials controlled most aspects of daily life. The ziggurats, massive step temples, were not only places of worship but also economic and administrative centers. Priests oversaw irrigation, food storage, and trade, ensuring a stable economy. Theocratic rule meant that city-states were governed in the name of the gods, with rulers acting as intermediaries between the people and the divine. As city-states like Uruk, Ur, and Lagash expanded, conflicts over land and water became frequent. The need for military leadership and defense led to the rise of secular rulers, Lugal, meaning great man, who became kings. Kings gradually took control of taxation, labor management, and law enforcement, reducing the power of temple priests. The bureaucracy grew, with officials responsible for maintaining canals, collecting taxes, and overseeing construction projects. The Sumerians established tax collection systems where surplus grain was gathered and redistributed by the government. They implemented standardized weights and measures, making trade more efficient. Law codes, such as the Code of Ur-Nammu, introduced some of the earliest legal principles, influencing later Mesopotamian law, including Hammurabi's Code. The transition from temple rule to monarchy reflected the increasing complexity of Sumerian society, with governance evolving to manage resources, labor, and military defense. Sumerians were pioneers in technology, craftsmanship, and large-scale construction, creating tools, buildings, and artistic works that shaped Mesopotamian culture. The Sumerians built canals, levees, and reservoirs to control water flow, ensuring agricultural productivity even during dry seasons. Originally developed for pottery making, the wheel was later adapted for transportation and chariots, revolutionizing trade and warfare. The invention of the wooden plow improved farming efficiency, increasing food production. Sumerians were skilled in bronze making, creating durable tools, weapons, and decorative objects. Ziggurats, these massive, pyramid-like structures served as temples and symbolized the city's devotion to the gods. The ziggurat of Ur is one of the best-preserved examples. Pottery and sculpture, Sumerians created intricately designed pottery, decorative cylinder seals, used for stamping documents, and lifelike statues. Textile weaving, using wool from domesticated sheep, Sumerians became skilled weavers, producing fine garments and cloth for trade. These technological and artistic innovations not only improved daily life, but also influenced later civilizations, including the Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians. As environmental conditions became harsher, with soil salinization, droughts, and unpredictable river flooding, the role of governance expanded. Managing irrigation and food distribution became a centralized responsibility, leading to stronger leadership structures. Initially, temples controlled food supplies, but as farming became more labor-intensive, kings took over resource management. Royal power was justified through divine approval, with kings claiming to be chosen by the gods to rule. Large construction projects, ziggurats, canals, and city walls required organized labor. The elite coerced workers or provided wages and meals in exchange for labor. As fertile land became scarcer, wars over territory and water rights increased. Powerful kings, such as Gilgamesh of Uruk, emerged as military leaders and empire builders. Ultimately, environmental pressures accelerated the rise of state-controlled economies, legal systems, and centralized rule, shaping the trajectory of Mesopotamian history. The Sumerians were true innovators of civilization, pioneering writing, governance, technology, and art in a way that transformed human history. Their creation of cuneiform allowed for written records, while their development of bureaucratic governance and urban planning laid the foundation for future empires. Their technological advancements, including the wheel, irrigation systems, and large-scale construction, set the stage for continued progress in the ancient world. Even as environmental challenges reshaped their society, the legacy of Sumerian ingenuity influenced countless civilizations, making them one of the most significant cultures in history. The transition from small agricultural villages to major urban centers was a defining moment in Mesopotamian history. Between 5,000 and 6,000 years ago, Sumerian society experienced rapid urbanization, transforming scattered farming communities into large, organized city-states. This transformation, often referred to as the Urban Revolution, marked the beginning of complex societies, centralized governance, large-scale trade, and social stratification. As populations increased, economic activities diversified, and cities expanded, early settlements like Uruk, Bad Tibra, Shuruppak, and Eridu became major urban centers, shaping the course of Mesopotamian civilization. These cities not only functioned as political and religious hubs, but also became centers of commerce, craftsmanship, and governance, laying the foundation for the first great civilizations in human history. One of the earliest and most influential cities in Mesopotamia was Uruk, often considered the world's first true city. By 3100 BC, Uruk had grown into a massive urban center with an estimated population of 40,000 to 50,000 people, making it the largest city of its time. The cultivation of barley, wheat, legumes, and fruits, such as grapes, apples, and melons, ensured a stable food supply. Farmers raised sheep, goats, cattle, and pigs for milk, meat, and wool, supporting the growing population. Surplus agricultural products allowed Uruk to trade with neighboring regions, exchanging food for timber, metals, and luxury goods. With an abundant food supply, many people became craftsmen, merchants, and administrators, leading to the rise of social hierarchies and professional classes. The construction of massive ziggurats, temple complexes, in Uruk signified the city's religious and political power, attracting more settlers. Ur, one of the most significant cities of ancient Sumer, was located approximately 140 miles (225 kilometers) southeast of Babylon and about 10 miles (16 kilometers) west of the present course of the Euphrates River. In antiquity, the river flowed much closer to Ur, making the land fertile and well irrigated. However, over time, changes in the river's course transformed the once thriving city into a desert ruin. The first major archaeological excavations at Ur were conducted after World War I by H.R. Hull of the British Museum. Later, from 1922 to 1934, a joint expedition by the British Museum and the University of Pennsylvania, led by Leonard Woolley, revealed extensive evidence of Ur's long history, significantly expanding our knowledge of Mesopotamian civilization. Ur was established around the 4th millennium BC by settlers, likely from northern Mesopotamia, who were still in the Chalcolithic phase of culture. Evidence suggests that an early settlement was disrupted by a flood, once thought to be the same flood described in Genesis. Later, during the Jamdat Nasr, late Proto-Literate period, a large cemetery yielded important artifacts, linking Ur to similar discoveries at Erech. By the 25th century BC, Ur had become the capital of southern Mesopotamia under the Sumerian rulers of the first dynasty of Ur. Excavations of royal tombs from the preceding 26th century BC uncovered extraordinary treasures, including gold, silver, bronze, and semi-precious stones, indicating the city's wealth and advanced culture. These tombs also provided insight into burial customs, as kings were interred with their entire retinue, including court officials and servants, who continued their service in the afterlife. Artifacts from these tombs, such as golden weapons, musical instruments, engraved shell plaques, mosaics, and cylinder seals, showcase the artistic and technological advancements of Ur. In a suburb called Alabaid, a small yet richly decorated temple further illustrated the sophistication of Ur's architecture and craftsmanship. During the reign of the third dynasty of Ur, the city once again became the center of an empire. One of the most remarkable structures from this period is the Great Ziggurat, a massive, multi-storied temple dedicated to the moon god Nana, Sin, the city's patron deity. Built under Ur-Nammu, the dynasty's founder, the ziggurat was made of mud bricks faced with bitumen-bonded burnt bricks. It featured 3 large staircases leading to the shrine at the top. The architecture displayed sophisticated design techniques, including inward-sloping walls and carefully calculated proportions that created an illusion of strength. The builders even employed the principle of entasis, curving lines that subtly corrected optical distortions, similar to what was later used in the Parthenon in Athens. The excavations also revealed that by the 3rd millennium BC, Sumerian architects had mastered fundamental architectural elements such as columns, arches, vaults, and domes, demonstrating their engineering expertise. Although UR's political dominance declined after the 3rd dynasty, it retained religious and commercial significance. The kings of Isen and Larsa restored many of its temples, and the city remained a major trading hub due to its access to the Persian Gulf via river and canal networks. As early as the reign of Sargon of Akkad, 24th century BC, UR was in contact with India, as evidenced by Indus Valley-style seals found at the site. Its merchants conducted long-distance trade, exchanging goods with Dilmun, Bahrain, and acquiring copper and ivory from the east. Clay tablets discovered in UR's residential areas provided detailed insights into daily life, commerce, and legal affairs. Homes from the Larsa and Babylonian periods, around the 18th century BC, the time traditionally associated with Abraham's life, were well-constructed, multi-story buildings with space for families, servants, and guests. Some homes featured private chapels where families worshipped their household deities and buried their ancestors beneath the floors. UR experienced a revival under the Neo-Babylonian ruler Nebuchadnezzar II, 605 to 562 BC, who undertook extensive rebuilding efforts. His successor, Nabonidus, 556 to 539 BC, further renovated the ziggurat, increasing its height to 7 tiers. However, by the time of the Achaemenid Persian king Cyrus the Great, 6th century BC, UR had entered a period of decline. Cyrus's inscription suggests that he sought to honor the city's religious traditions, much like his decree regarding the Temple of Jerusalem. Despite these efforts, UR's decline continued. By the time of Artaxerxes II, the city had largely faded, and a single surviving tablet from the reign of Philip Aridius, 317 BC, marks its final historical reference. The changing course of the Euphrates, coupled with the collapse of the irrigation system, turned the once thriving city into an uninhabitable desert, leading to its ultimate abandonment. The excavations at UR, along with findings from other Mesopotamian sites, have provided an exceptionally detailed record of the city's history, economy, architecture, and daily life. From its rise as a Sumerian capital to its final days as a decaying relic of the past, UR remains one of the most thoroughly studied and fascinating cities of the ancient world. Lagash was one of the most significant capital cities in ancient Sumer, located between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in what is now southeastern Iraq. The ancient site known as Tel Lo was originally called Gursu, while Lagash initially referred to a separate location southeast of Gursu. Over time, the name Lagash came to represent both the district and Gursu itself. French archaeologists conducted excavations at Tel Lo between 1877 and 1933, uncovering over 50,000 cuneiform tablets. These texts have provided invaluable insights into Sumerian civilization during the 3rd millennium BCE. Additionally, numerous dedicatory inscriptions on stone and bricks have helped historians understand the chronological progression of Sumerian art and culture. Lagash was founded during the Ubaid period, circa 5200 to 3500 BC, and remained inhabited until the Parthian era, 247 BC, 224 CE. During the early dynastic period, its rulers took the title Ligal, king, even though Lagash was never officially recognized within the Sumerian canon of kingship. Eannatum, one of Lagash's most famous kings, known for his military campaigns. His victory over the neighboring state of Amma is commemorated in the Stele of the Vultures, a stone monument depicting battle scenes. Entemena, a successor of Eannatum, who is best known for his engraved silver vase, a masterpiece of Sumerian craftsmanship. Gudea, perhaps the most well-known ruler of Lagash, Gudea likely governed as a provincial governor rather than an independent king. He ruled during the time when the Gudi people controlled much of Babylonia, circa 2230 to 2130 BCE. Under his leadership, Lagash experienced a remarkable cultural and economic revival. Lagash was home to numerous temples, including Ininu, House of the 50 dedicated to the high god Enlil and a major religious center of the city. Water control system. One of Lagash's most advanced architectural achievements was a weir and water regulator, likely equipped with sluice gates to store and distribute water efficiently. This system played a crucial role in maintaining irrigation and agriculture in the region. Lagash eventually fell under the control of Sargon of Akkad, reigned circa 2334 to 2279 BC, marking the end of its independence. However, about 150 years later, the city experienced a brief resurgence before gradually losing prominence. Lagash was a powerful and influential city in ancient Sumer, known for its military strength, artistic achievements, and architectural advancements. Despite periods of decline, it remained a significant religious and cultural center for centuries. The discoveries from Lagash continue to enrich our understanding of early Mesopotamian civilization. In addition to Uruk, several other city-states emerged during this period, each playing a crucial role in Mesopotamian civilization. Bad Tibra, known for metalwork and craftsmanship, this city was an important industrial center, producing weapons, tools, and decorative objects. Bad Tibra was one of the earliest and most significant cities of ancient Sumer, located in what is now southern Iraq. The name Bad Tibra translates to Wall of the Metalworkers, suggesting that the city was a major center for metal production and craftsmanship in early Mesopotamian civilization. Bad Tibra is mentioned in the Sumerian king list, an ancient text that records the reigns of legendary and historical rulers. According to this list, Bad Tibra was the second city to exercise kingship after the mythical city of Eridu, indicating its early importance in Sumerian history. The Sumerian king list attributes the rule of Bad Tibra to three legendary kings before the city was eventually conquered: Enmen-Luana, Enmen-Galana, Dumuzid, the shepherd, who was later associated with the god Dumuzi/Tammuz, a deity of fertility and shepherding. Bad Tibra was an important religious center, housing temples dedicated to major Sumerian gods, including Imush Temple, dedicated to Dumuzi, the god of fertility and shepherds. Temple of Inanna, worshipped as the goddess of love, war, and fertility. The city's economy was likely driven by metalwork, trade, and agriculture, as its name suggests. The presence of advanced metalworking facilities suggests that it played a crucial role in producing weapons, tools, and other goods for early Sumerian society. Bad Tibra eventually fell to rival city-states, and its political influence diminished over time. However, its religious and cultural impact remained significant in Mesopotamian mythology and historical records. The city's association with Dumuzi/Tammuz ensured its place in later Babylonian and Assyrian traditions. Bad Tibra was an essential city in early Sumer, known for its role in metalworking, religion, and governance. Though it eventually faded from political prominence, its legacy endured through mythology, religious traditions, and historical records, making it a key site in the study of ancient Mesopotamian civilization. Shuruppak, located near the Euphrates, Shuruppak was a key agricultural city, with vast farmlands sustaining its population. Shuruppak, an important city in ancient Sumer, was located in southern Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, near the Euphrates River. It was one of the oldest cities in Sumerian history and is best known for its association with flood myths, wisdom traditions, and its role as a major administrative and trading center. Shuruppak is mentioned in the Sumerian king list as the last city to hold kingship before the legendary Great Flood. The city was believed to have been ruled by Utnapishtim, or Ziusidra in Sumerian tradition, the Sumerian Noah, who survived the flood and was granted immortality by the gods. Archaeological evidence suggests that Shuruppak flourished during the early dynastic period, circa 2600 to 2500 BCE. The city's ruins, found at modern Tel Farah, reveal well-planned urban structures, large houses, streets, and canals, indicating an advanced civilization with organized governance and a strong economic system. Shuruppak was famous for its connection to wisdom literature. The Instructions of Shuruppak, one of the oldest known literary texts, dating back to around 2600 BC, is a collection of proverbs and moral teachings attributed to King Shuruppak, advising his son Ziusudra on how to live wisely. These texts influenced later Mesopotamian and biblical traditions. Shuruppak was a wealthy city, relying on agriculture. Fertile lands along the Euphrates allowed for large-scale farming of barley, dates, and other crops. Trade. The city was a major trading hub, dealing in grain, textiles, and metals. Craftsmanship. Shurupak's artisans were skilled in making pottery, tools, and jewelry. According to Sumerian mythology, the gods decided to destroy humankind with a massive flood, sparing only Utnapishtim/Ziusudra, who was warned to build a boat to survive. This story later influenced the Epic of Gilgamesh and biblical flood narratives. Archaeological excavations at Shuruppak have revealed a deep flood layer, suggesting that a large-scale flood event may have occurred around 2900 to 2600 BC, possibly contributing to the city's decline. Despite this, Shuruppak continued to exist in later periods, but never regained its former prominence. Shuruppak remains one of the most significant cities in Mesopotamian history, known for its wisdom traditions, flood myths, and early urban civilization. Its teachings, legends, and archaeological remains provide valuable insights into the cultural and intellectual achievements of ancient Sumer. Eridu. Considered the oldest city in Mesopotamia, Eridu was an important religious center, home to one of the earliest known temples dedicated to the god Enki. Eridu, one of the earliest known cities in history, was a major religious and cultural center of ancient Sumer. Located in southern Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, it was considered by the Sumerians to be the first city ever created and the home of Enki, the god of wisdom, water, and creation. According to the Sumerian king list, Eridu was the first city where kingship was established, marking the beginning of civilization. In Sumerian mythology, it was also the place where Enki, the god of wisdom and freshwater, built his Absa temple, which was believed to contain the primordial waters of creation. The Eridu Genesis, an ancient flood myth, describes how the gods created the city as part of the world's formation. Eridu was deeply respected throughout Mesopotamian history as a holy city and the spiritual center of the region. Excavations at Eridu revealed that it was founded around 5400 BC during the Ubaid period, making it one of the oldest urban settlements. The city had a series of temples dedicated to Enki, with each new structure built atop the remains of the previous one, showing continuous religious activity for thousands of years. Mud brick temples, the oldest temples in Mesopotamian history, forming the foundation of later ziggurats. Large residential areas, indicating an organized society with skilled laborers, priests, and traders. Sophisticated irrigation systems, used for agriculture in the arid environment. Eridu thrived as an agricultural and religious center, with its economy based on farming, cultivating barley, dates, and other crops using irrigation from the Euphrates River. Fishing. As a city near water sources, fish played a crucial role in daily life. Trade. Eridu was part of a regional trade network, dealing in goods such as pottery, textiles, and precious stones. By around 2000 BC, Eridu's influence declined as power shifted to cities like Ur and Uruk. Climate change, shifts in trade routes, and political factors led to its gradual abandonment. By the time of the Neo-Babylonian period, 6th century BC, Eridu was mostly deserted, though it remained an important religious symbol in Mesopotamian tradition. Despite its decline, Eridu remained a revered city in Mesopotamian culture. It was often remembered in myths as the first city of the gods and the birthplace of civilization. The site continues to be an important archaeological landmark, providing valuable insights into the origins of urban life and religious practices in the ancient world. These cities were not just clusters of houses, but had organized streets, public buildings, irrigation systems, and defensive walls, signifying the emergence of planned urban societies. Urbanization in Mesopotamia was deeply connected to the development of agriculture. The success of farming allowed people to settle permanently and produce enough surplus food to support large, non-farming populations. Since Mesopotamia had a dry climate, the Sumerians developed advanced irrigation techniques, including canals, ditches, and reservoirs, to control water distribution. Farmers cultivated grains, barley, wheat, millet, legumes, lentils, peas, vegetables, onions, cucumbers, garlic, and fruits, dates, grapes, apples, melons. Sheep and goats provided wool and dairy, while cattle helped in plowing fields, making farming more efficient. The Sumerians built granaries and storage facilities to preserve food supplies, ensuring stability during droughts or poor harvests. This agricultural surplus played a critical role in the expansion of trade, labor specialization, and urban development. With fewer people required to work the fields, many pursued occupations in pottery making, metalwork, textile production, and administration, contributing to the economic strength of city-states. As cities continued to grow, competition over land, water, and resources intensified. Mesopotamian city-states frequently engaged in territorial disputes and warfare, leading to the rise of military leaders and kings who ruled with both political and religious authority. Uruk versus Kish, these two powerful cities often fought for dominance, with each attempting to control trade routes and fertile land. Uruk and Kish were two of the most powerful and influential cities in ancient Sumer, constantly competing for dominance over trade routes, fertile land, and political influence. Their rivalry played a crucial role in shaping the early history of Mesopotamia and the development of Sumerian civilization. Uruk, located in southern Mesopotamia, was one of the largest and most advanced cities of its time. It was known for the first ziggurats. Uruk housed the famous Inanna temple dedicated to Inanna, Ishtar, the goddess of love and war. Innovations in writing. The earliest forms of cuneiform script were developed here around 3200 BCE. Gilgamesh, the legendary king of Uruk, whose epic tells of his quest for immortality and his battles against Kish. Uruk thrived on agriculture, trade, and religious authority, making it a major center of early civilization. Kish, located further north, was one of the oldest Sumerian cities and often claimed kingship over Sumer. Key aspects of Kish's power included strong military. Kish frequently expanded its influence through warfare and diplomacy. First kingship in Sumer. According to the Sumerian king list, Kish was the first city to hold divine kingship after the Great Flood. Control over trade routes. Positioned between northern and southern Mesopotamia, Kish controlled major trade networks, connecting Sumer to Akkad and beyond. The competition between Uruk and Kish centered around control of fertile land. The cities fought over irrigation canals and fertile fields essential for agriculture. Trade dominance. Both cities wanted to control trade routes linking Sumer to regions like Elam, Anatolia, and the Indus Valley. Political legitimacy. Each city sought to claim the divine right to rule all of Sumer. One of the most famous conflicts was between King Gilgamesh of Uruk and King Aga of Kish. According to Sumerian legends, Aga demanded Uruk's submission, but Gilgamesh refused. The two cities went to war, and Uruk emerged victorious, proving its strength over Kish. During the early dynastic period, 2900 to 2334 BC, Kish often held power, but Uruk periodically challenged and defeated it. Sargon of Akkad, 2334 BC, later unified Sumer, ending the rivalry by establishing the Akkadian Empire. The Uruk-Kish rivalry played a crucial role in early Mesopotamian history, shaping the region's political, economic, and military developments. While both cities eventually declined, their legacies continued to influence later civilizations, including Babylon and Assyria. Lagash versus Umma. One of the earliest recorded wars occurred between these two cities over irrigation canals and water rights. One of the earliest recorded wars in human history took place between the ancient Sumerian cities of Lagash and Umma. Their conflict, which lasted for centuries, was primarily over irrigation canals and water rights, a critical issue in Mesopotamia, where agriculture depended on controlled access to river water. This war is one of the first examples of documented disputes over natural resources, showing how early civilizations struggled over land and water control. The land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers was fertile but required careful irrigation to support agriculture. The Sumerians built canals, dams, and reservoirs to distribute water to their cities. However, controlling these water systems often led to disputes, especially between neighboring cities like Lagash and Umma. Disputed borderlands, the key area of conflict was Guadina, a fertile region between Lagash and Umma. Both cities claimed ownership of this land. Control of irrigation canals, the canal system in the region controlled the flow of water, and whoever controlled the canals could restrict or redirect water supply to their advantage. Broken treaties, earlier rulers had established treaties about water usage, but these agreements were frequently ignored or violated, leading to ongoing tensions. The most famous phase of the war occurred during the reign of Eannatum, king of Lagash. Umma, led by its ruler Enekal, invaded Guadina, breaking an earlier peace agreement. Eannatum responded by leading Lagash's army into battle, defeating Umma and reclaiming control over the disputed land. To commemorate his victory, Eannatum erected the Stele of the Vultures, a carved stone monument depicting Lagash's triumph and the punishment of Umma's soldiers. The Stele of the Vultures is the earliest known war monument in history. It shows Lagashan soldiers marching into battle in tight formations. Vultures flying over the battlefield, symbolizing the fate of the defeated Umma warriors. Eannatum personally leading his troops, emphasizing the role of kings in warfare. Umma was forced to pay tribute to Lagash, supplying grain and other resources. Despite the defeat, Umma rebelled again in later years, leading to more battles. Eventually, around 2300 BC, Sargon of Akkad conquered both cities and ended their rivalry, incorporating them into the Akkadian Empire. First recorded war, this was one of the earliest documented conflicts in human history. Resource wars, the war highlights how conflicts over natural resources have been a central issue since ancient times. Early diplomacy, treaties and agreements were used but often violated, showing the difficulties of enforcing international law even in early civilizations. The Lagash-Umma War is a defining moment in early history, marking one of the first known organized battles over land and water rights. This conflict foreshadowed future disputes in Mesopotamia and beyond, proving that control over vital resources has always been a key driver of warfare. UR versus Akkad, as Mesopotamian city-states expanded. The conflict between UR and Akkad was part of a larger power struggle in Mesopotamia during the late 3rd millennium BCE. The city of Ur, a major center of Sumerian civilization, clashed with the rising Akkadian Empire, led by Sargon of Akkad and his successors. This rivalry was fueled by the Akkadian ambition to dominate southern Mesopotamia, which included Ur and other powerful Sumerian city-states. By the 24th century BC, the Sumerian city-states, including Ur, Lagash, and Umma, were often engaged in conflicts over land and water rights. These cities were independent but shared a common culture and language. However, the rise of Sargon of Akkad, circa 2334 to 2279 BC, changed the balance of power. Sargon united northern and southern Mesopotamia, creating the world's first empire. He established Akkad as the dominant power, forcing Sumerian cities to submit to his rule. Many Sumerian cities, including Ur, resisted Akkadian dominance. Sargon of Akkad invaded Ur, bringing it under his control along with other Sumerian cities. He appointed Akkadian governors in Ur to oversee administration and trade. Although Ur lost its independence, it remained an important economic center. After the death of Sargon and his successors, Akkad's power began to decline. The rulers of Ur saw an opportunity to reclaim their independence and led a rebellion against Akkadian rule. The city was briefly freed, but Akkadian kings, such as Naram-Sin, Sargon's grandson, crushed the revolt and re-established control. By 2150 BC, the Akkadian Empire collapsed due to internal strife and invasions by the Gutians, a mountain people from the northeast. UR took advantage of Akkad's fall and re-emerged as a dominant power under the third dynasty of UR3, circa 2100 to 2000 BCE. King Ur-Nammu of Ur defeated the Gutians and re-established Sumerian rule in Mesopotamia, creating one of the most influential periods in Sumerian history. The war between Ur and Akkad symbolized the struggle between independent Sumerian city-states and the rise of centralized empires. The Akkadian conquest of Ur showed how empires could unite fragmented city-states under a single ruler. Akkadian rulers introduced new administrative and military techniques that later influenced Ur's rule during the Ur3 period. Ur's rebellion against Akkad foreshadowed how later city-states would challenge empires throughout Mesopotamian history. The conflict between Ur and Akkad was part of a broader struggle between local independence and imperial control. Though Akkad initially conquered Ur, the city outlived the Akkadian Empire and rose again to power after Akkad's fall. This rivalry shaped the political landscape of ancient Mesopotamia and demonstrated the constant battle for supremacy in the region. As Mesopotamian city-states expanded, they clashed with emerging empires, leading to political unification under powerful rulers. As city-states expanded, they built walls and fortifications to protect themselves from invasions. Military advancements, such as chariots, bronze weapons, and organized armies, became essential for survival. The need for leadership, administration, and legal systems in these growing city-states led to the rise of centralized governments. Kings, often claiming divine authority, ruled over city-states and implemented laws, taxation, and public works projects. In the dawn of civilization, Mesopotamian city-states thrived as independent entities, each competing for land, water, and resources. But as conflicts escalated, a new form of governance emerged: empires that unified these city-states under powerful rulers. Sargon of Akkad, a visionary leader, overthrew the king of Kish and forged the first known empire in history. He unified Sumerian city-states, establishing a centralized government that controlled military, trade, and administration. His military campaigns extended Akkadian rule from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea, setting the standard for future empires. Sargon introduced key administrative reforms, appointing local governors, standardizing laws and taxation, and building a standing army. Akkadian culture blended with Sumerian traditions, creating a rich and lasting legacy. Yet, despite its power, the Akkadian Empire eventually fell due to internal revolts, economic decline, and invasions by the Gutians around 2154 BCE. After the fall of Akkad, Babylon emerged as the new dominant power. Under King Hammurabi, Babylon flourished, becoming a center of law, commerce, and science. He was the most famous king of the Old Babylonian Empire. Hammurabi is best known for his Code of Hammurabi, one of the earliest and most comprehensive legal codes in history. Written in cuneiform on a large stone stele, this set of 282 laws covered a wide range of social, economic, and criminal matters. It emphasized justice based on social hierarchy, with different punishments for nobles, commoners, and slaves. An eye for an eye justice, lex talionis, was a key principle, promoting retributive justice. It addressed property rights, marriage, business contracts, labor laws, and penalties for crimes. Hammurabi's code established a legal framework that influenced later civilizations, including the Hebrews, Greeks, and Romans. Under Hammurabi, Babylon became a powerful empire by defeating rival city-states such as Larsa, Mari, and Assyria, bringing most of Mesopotamia under its control. Developing a strong economy based on agriculture, textiles, and trade with regions as far as Anatolia, Turkey, and the Indus Valley. Building extensive canals and roads, improving transport and irrigation. Babylon's location on key trade routes made it a prosperous commercial hub, attracting merchants from across the ancient world. Despite its splendor, Babylon fell to the Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great in 539 BCE. The Persians, however, admired Babylonian culture and preserved much of its knowledge and infrastructure. The Akkadian and Babylonian empires were two of the most influential civilizations in Mesopotamian history. Sargon of Akkad established the first empire in history, creating a model of centralized rule that future rulers would follow. Hammurabi of Babylon further shaped civilization through his legal codes, infrastructure, and governance, leaving a lasting mark on legal traditions worldwide. Babylon's architectural, scientific, and cultural achievements made it one of the most legendary cities of the ancient world. Even after its fall, its influence persisted in later empires, including the Persians, Greeks, and Romans. The legacy of these empires remains a testament to the ingenuity and resilience of Mesopotamian civilization. Mesopotamia, often referred to as the Cradle of Civilization, was one of the most influential ancient societies, pioneering key advancements that shaped the foundation of modern civilization. From writing and governance to law, trade, and urban planning, Mesopotamians introduced ideas and innovations that continued to influence cultures for millennia. Despite challenges such as climate changes, invasions, and political upheavals, their achievements demonstrated remarkable human ingenuity, adaptability, and resilience. Many of their contributions laid the groundwork for later civilizations, including the Persians, Greeks, and Romans, whose own cultures were built upon Mesopotamian advancements. The success of Mesopotamian civilization was deeply rooted in its advanced farming and irrigation systems. Situated between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, Mesopotamia had fertile land, but unpredictable flooding and dry seasons required innovative water management techniques. The development of irrigation transformed agriculture, enabling the rise of surplus food production, permanent settlements, and ultimately, complex societies. Agriculture played a fundamental role in the development of Mesopotamian civilization, shaping its economy, society, and urbanization. The transition from a nomadic lifestyle of hunting and gathering to settled farming communities, known as the Neolithic Revolution, 10,000 BC, marked a turning point in human history. As people began to cultivate crops and domesticate animals, they could produce a stable food supply, which enabled the establishment of permanent settlements. Over time, these settlements expanded, giving rise to villages, towns, and eventually the great city-states of Mesopotamia. The increasing productivity of agriculture allowed populations to grow, supported the development of trade networks, and led to advancements in governance, infrastructure, and social organization. Mesopotamian farmers cultivated a wide variety of crops that played essential roles in their diet, economy, and religious practices. These crops were well suited to the region's climate and soil conditions, particularly with the aid of irrigation. Barley, the most commonly grown crop, barley was a staple food source and was also used in brewing beer, an important beverage in Mesopotamian culture. Wheat, used for making bread, wheat was another essential grain that contributed to the daily diet of Mesopotamians. Millet, though less common than barley and wheat, millet was grown in drier regions and provided an additional food source. Lentils, peas, chickpeas, and beans, these legumes were rich in protein and helped balance the Mesopotamian diet. They could be dried and stored for long periods, ensuring food security during harsh seasons. Onions, garlic, leeks, cucumbers, and lettuce, these vegetables were cultivated in household and temple gardens, providing essential vitamins and flavors to Mesopotamian cuisine. Many of these plants were also used for medicinal purposes. Dates, one of the most significant fruits in Mesopotamia, dates were highly nutritious and provided natural sugar. Date palm trees also offered shade and wood for construction. Grapes, used for eating and winemaking, grapes were a valuable commodity. Apples, figs, and melons, these fruits were cultivated in orchards and enjoyed by both commoners and elites. In addition to farming, Mesopotamians raised various animals, which played crucial roles in agriculture, trade, and daily life. Livestock provided food, labor, clothing, and materials for various industries. Sheep and goats. Sheep and goats were among the most commonly domesticated animals. They provided wool, which was a major trade commodity used for clothing and textiles. Their milk was used to make butter and cheese, adding variety to the Mesopotamian diet. They were also a source of meat, particularly during religious offerings and festivals. Cattle. Cattle played a vital role in agriculture, as they were used to plow fields and improve farming efficiency. They were also a source of milk, butter, and meat, making them essential to Mesopotamian households. Wealthy individuals and temples often owned large herds of cattle, which symbolized wealth and prosperity. Pigs and poultry. Pigs were raised primarily for their meat, which was consumed by certain segments of the population. Chickens and ducks provided eggs and meat, supplementing the Mesopotamian diet with additional protein sources. The ability to produce surplus food transformed Mesopotamian society in several key ways. Agricultural surpluses allowed Mesopotamians to engage in long-distance trade with neighboring regions such as Anatolia, the Indus Valley, and Egypt. Surplus grain was exchanged for goods such as metals, timber, precious stones, and textiles. Farmers and laborers made up the lower class, while landowners and priests controlled agricultural production. The ability to store and distribute food gave rise to powerful rulers and temple authorities who managed surplus goods and taxation. Since not everyone needed to farm, people took on specialized roles such as pottery making, weaving, and metalworking. Cities like Uruk, Ur, and Babylon expanded, supported by agricultural wealth and efficient irrigation systems. Agriculture was the backbone of Mesopotamian civilization, influencing its economy, social structure, and technological advancements. By mastering farming and irrigation, Mesopotamians not only secured their survival but also laid the foundation for one of the world's earliest and most influential civilizations. Mesopotamia, despite its fertile soil, faced significant challenges due to its hot and arid climate. The region experienced long, dry summers with minimal rainfall, particularly in the southern areas, making irrigation essential for successful farming. Although the Tigris and Euphrates rivers provided a crucial water source, their seasonal flooding was unpredictable, sometimes bringing too much water and causing destruction, while at other times leaving fields dry. To combat these challenges, Mesopotamians developed one of the world's earliest and most sophisticated irrigation systems, allowing them to control water distribution efficiently and ensure consistent agricultural production. To make the best use of river water, Mesopotamians engineered an extensive irrigation network consisting of canals, ditches, levees, dams, reservoirs, basins, and water-lifting devices. These techniques played a vital role in sustaining crops and supporting population growth. One of the most important methods of irrigation in Mesopotamia was the construction of canals to divert water from the rivers into agricultural fields. Farmers dug long canals that transported water over great distances, ensuring that even lands far from the riverbanks received adequate irrigation. Smaller ditches branched off from the main canals, carrying water directly to individual farms and plots. This system allowed farmers to distribute water efficiently across their lands, ensuring the growth of crops even during dry periods. The canals also prevented excessive dependence on rainfall, giving Mesopotamians greater control over their food supply. While irrigation was necessary to supply water to crops, flood management was equally important. During the flood season, the Tigris and Euphrates could overflow unpredictably, sometimes destroying fields and settlements. To protect their farmlands, Mesopotamians constructed levees, which were raised embankments made of mud and stone. These levees controlled the flow of water, preventing excessive flooding while allowing controlled irrigation. In addition to levees, dams were built to regulate water flow and store excess water for later use. Dams helped prevent water loss during periods of low rainfall by keeping a steady supply available for irrigation. This system ensured that farmers could access water throughout the year, even when the rivers were at low levels. To further enhance water conservation, Mesopotamians created reservoirs, large storage areas where water was collected during the flood season. This stored water was essential for dry months when rainfall was insufficient. Farmers also used basins, which were specially designed areas where water was distributed evenly across fields. These basins allowed water to seep into the soil gradually, ensuring that crops received adequate moisture without excessive runoff or waste. The use of reservoirs and basins played a crucial role in maintaining a steady agricultural cycle, enabling Mesopotamian society to thrive even in harsh climatic conditions. To transport water to fields at a higher elevation, Mesopotamians used a device called the shaduf. This simple yet effective tool consisted of a long pole balanced on a pivot, with a bucket attached to one end and a counterweight on the other. By pulling down on the weighted end, farmers could lift water from canals or reservoirs and pour it onto their fields. The shaduf made irrigation much easier and was widely used throughout Mesopotamian agriculture. The development of irrigation in Mesopotamia was a transformative achievement that had far-reaching effects on the region's civilization. By controlling water flow from the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, Mesopotamians were able to sustain agriculture in an otherwise arid environment, leading to significant advancements in food production, social organization, economic growth, and governance. However, despite its many benefits, the irrigation system also introduced environmental and political challenges that shaped the history of Mesopotamian city-states. One of the most immediate and crucial impacts of irrigation was the increase in food production. By effectively managing water supply through canals, reservoirs, and basins, farmers were able to cultivate more land and grow crops year-round, rather than depending on unpredictable rainfall. The ability to produce larger crop yields led to food surpluses, which were stored for times of scarcity or used for trade. With a stable food supply, population growth accelerated, and small villages expanded into large urban centers. The rise of major cities such as Uruk, Ur, and Babylon was directly linked to the success of irrigation-based agriculture. These cities became bustling hubs of economic, political, and cultural activity, attracting skilled workers, merchants, and religious leaders. As agricultural productivity increased, the foundation was laid for one of the world's first great civilizations. The availability of surplus food freed many people from the necessity of farming, allowing them to pursue specialized occupations. With fewer individuals required to work the fields, society saw the emergence of craftsmen, merchants, administrators, scribes, and priests. This specialization led to technological and artistic advancements, as artisans could devote their time to pottery, metalwork, and textile production, while scholars and religious leaders developed early forms of education and record-keeping. Furthermore, Mesopotamia became one of the first civilizations to develop a trade-based economy. With abundant grain and livestock, Mesopotamians engaged in long-distance trade, exchanging surplus agricultural goods for metals, timber, precious stones, and luxury items from neighboring regions such as Anatolia, the Indus Valley, and Egypt. This trade network not only enriched Mesopotamian city-states but also contributed to the spread of cultural and technological innovations across ancient civilizations. The complexity of irrigation systems required organized labor and governance. Constructing and maintaining large-scale canals, levees, and reservoirs was a communal effort that necessitated supervision. In the early stages, temple authorities and priests played a central role in managing irrigation, collecting surplus grain, and distributing water resources. Over time, as societies grew, the responsibility shifted to kings and ruling elites, who oversaw public works projects and enforced irrigation laws. The administration of irrigation also contributed to the development of bureaucracy and record-keeping. The need to monitor water distribution, taxation, and food storage led to the invention of cuneiform writing, 300 BCE. Scribes documented agricultural transactions, recorded grain surpluses, and maintained legal codes related to water rights. These written records formed the foundation of one of the earliest bureaucratic systems in human history, influencing later civilizations in governance and administration. Despite its many benefits, the irrigation system also created long-term environmental challenges that affected Mesopotamian agriculture and settlement patterns. One of the most significant issues was salinization, a process in which salt accumulates in the soil due to excessive irrigation and poor drainage. As water evaporated from the fields, mineral salts were left behind, gradually reducing soil fertility and making it difficult to grow crops. Over time, this problem forced many communities to abandon farmland and search for new agricultural opportunities elsewhere. Another major issue was the overuse of land. Continuous farming without proper crop rotation and soil management led to nutrient depletion, which weakened the productivity of fields. Farmers had to work harder to maintain yields, often expanding irrigation networks further, which in turn worsened the salinization problem. Beyond environmental difficulties, water control became a source of political conflict. Rival city-states often fought for control over irrigation systems, as access to water meant economic and military power. Sumerian city-states such as Lagash and Amma frequently engaged in wars over disputed water rights, further intensifying political tensions. These conflicts weakened Mesopotamian city-states, making them vulnerable to external invasions from the Akkadians, Babylonians, and later the Assyrians. Despite these challenges, Mesopotamian irrigation techniques laid the groundwork for future civilizations. Their innovations in canal systems, flood control, and water distribution influenced later societies, including ancient Egypt, Persia, and Greece. Egyptian farmers adapted Mesopotamian irrigation methods to manage the Nile's flooding, while Persian engineers expanded on these techniques by constructing advanced canal underground irrigation systems. Greek and Roman civilizations also drew inspiration from Mesopotamian water management, further refining irrigation practices for agriculture and urban planning. The impact of irrigation on Mesopotamian society was profound and far-reaching. By mastering water control, Mesopotamians increased food production, fueled population growth, and built flourishing cities. Irrigation enabled economic expansion, encouraged social specialization, and contributed to the development of government, writing, and trade. However, environmental degradation, land overuse, and conflicts over water rights posed significant challenges that shaped the region's history. Despite these difficulties, Mesopotamian irrigation left a lasting legacy that influenced many of the world's greatest civilizations, proving that human ingenuity can transform even the harshest environments into centers of prosperity. The development of farming and irrigation in Mesopotamia was a revolutionary achievement that allowed human civilization to thrive. By mastering water control, the Mesopotamians transformed a harsh environment into a prosperous agricultural society, paving the way for urbanization, trade, governance, and technological progress. Their irrigation techniques laid the foundation for future civilizations, demonstrating how innovation can turn natural challenges into opportunities for growth.